The Rainbow Connection was the opening song written for the Muppet movie that came out in 1979 and quickly became associated with the brand as a whole. But what makes it work so well? What's going on within the context of the music that makes it so captivating and intriguing and tied into the Muppets brand as a whole? Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes into it, so let's go ahead and break it down today. So the first thing that we get at the start of the movie, and the song as a whole, is an aerial shot coming into Kermit's swamp, where we see him sitting on a log just playing his banjo, and he plays a little melody that goes like this. The way he plays it has sort of this disjointed feel to it. It's not as smooth as you might think it would be at first. And playing it this way really helps to give it a feel of he's coming up with this on the spot. This isn't some rehearsed thing that he's putting on for a show. He's being honest and genuine by the way he's playing the song and kind of making it for us right as we come in to see him doing it. And this little riff is built off of two chords. We get the A major chord like this, and a D major chord like this. And we are in the key of A major for this, so that means that the A major chord is the 1 of the chord, and the D major is the 4. And this will be a little bit nice to help think of some stuff that'll happen later on in the song. So the way that we kind of see him build the riff out is taking an A major chord, these 3 notes right here, and inverting it. So that's taking the bottom note and just moving it to the top. So instead of these 3 notes, we get these 3. Same notes, just reordered to sound a little bit different. And then he inverts it again, so taking the bottom note and just moving it to the top. Then goes back and adds that A back onto the bottom, like this. And then he goes for the last part of the riff and does a D major inversion, like this. And the way that you can tell these type of inversions apart is by how many times you flip them. So this is just the standard one, like this. If we take the bottom note and move it to the top up here, this would be the first inversion. So you could say D major first inversion, and then if we take it up and do it again, this would be the second inversion, and then back to the basic one, like that. So that can help you break it down a little bit and see how he might have come up with this little bit of a riff. And the chords that he used here are also interesting as well, because he has the A major at the start, which is the 1 of the chord, and when you hear that, you'll feel at home and more at rest. And then he goes to the D major, which is the 4 of the key, and this one just has a little bit of movement, but not as much as you'd hear from some of the other chords in the key, which really helps kind of paint a parallel picture to what's going to happen in the movie, with feeling not super far away, but still returning back home, kind of like this. And this is literally all stuff we're getting just from the first 10 seconds of the song. We haven't gotten into any of the lyrics or anything like that. We're already getting this much about the context of the story that we're about to hear, not only from the song, but from the movie as well. So now that we've got the intro out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in the verse here. And then it just sort of repeats from there. So for the left hand, or the part that are playing the chords, we see that it's still kind of keeping this idea of the 1 going to the 4, but we add in 2 extra chords in there. So we start on the 1, or the A major, and then we go down to the F sharp minor, or the 6th of the key. And then we go back to the D, like we saw from the riff in the beginning. And then, this time, we go up to the 5 of the chord, or an E major. And you'll notice that this E major chord has a lot more tension. It feels a lot more like it wants to resolve back to the 1 chord, or the A. And as for the F sharp minor chord, you'll see it used in tons of other songs, but it helps create a little bit of tonal variancy instead of using all these major chords like we have been. And you'll notice that the contour of the chords, or kind of the shape that they take, is mostly going down, because we go from the A major to the F sharp minor, to the D major, and then up to the E major. So it kind of has this line of going down and then coming up right at the end. Notice that the right hand kind of does an inverse of that up until the end. So instead of going down, it has a melody that goes up, and then at the end, they come together. again, it kind of helps to paint an interesting mental picture because we're seeing two kind of contradicting ideas that want to come together. And we see a similar sort of thing in the movie that's happening as well. Kermit wants to stay in his swamp, but he wants to also go out and see the rest of the world. And it's super cool how that the chords and melodies, and not even the lyrics, are helping reinforce that theme as well. Then we get to the bridge sort of thing, and it's quite interesting. It looks like this. Okay, so the first thing that you'll notice there is we only used two chords and we used them a lot. So the first one that we used was the F sharp minor, which we've already seen. But then we go to a C sharp minor, and this is the third of the key. So why would they choose to go to this one? If you know much about using chords or anything, you'll know that the main ones that are used are the 1, 4, 5, and 6. But you don't hear a lot from the 3. So what was their thinking for why they would go to this? So as you know, we've been in the key of A major this whole time. But what if we were to shift our perspective and be in the key of F sharp minor instead? Because if you look at the notes that are in A major, and you look at the notes that are in F sharp minor, you'll notice that's the same set of notes, just reordered from the note that you start on. And what we call this is a relative minor. So whatever the sixth of the key that you're playing in, if it's major, that'll be the relative minor. So if you take C major, for example, and go to the sixth of the key, this one right here, the A, and play just the same notes in that order, you'll get the relative minor of the major key. And in that case, it's F sharp minor. So what we're doing when we're just going back and forth on this F sharp minor chord is we're retraining our ear to stop hearing it as being an A major and start hearing it as being an F sharp minor. So then when we get to the C sharp minor chord, instead of hearing it as the minor 3 of A major, we start to hear it instead as the 5 of F sharp minor. Take a look. And you can hear how that C sharp minor resolves into the F sharp minor now that we're hearing the F sharp as the home of the key that we're in. So to create a little bit of that tonal variancy, we start shifting keys, which really helps kind of go along with this theme of exploring these ideas. And the melody or right hand part is pretty simple as well. We're just going back and forth on these two notes, which are made up of the F sharp minor chord. F sharp minor chord is these three notes, as we know, and the melody goes back and forth between these two. And then it changes a little bit here. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the chorus. So you might have noticed that there was a bit of a different chord there, but let's go ahead and take a look at what was happening. So we start with the D major chord, like we've seen before, going to the E major chord, and this is setting up for wanting to go back to the A major chord like we know. But instead of going there, it goes to the minor 3 or the C sharp minor chord. And then here's where it gets interesting. It goes to the E major chord, the 5, and then up to an F sharp major chord, which sounds super bright. So the whole time we've been hearing F sharp as a minor chord like this, but now we're hearing it as the major chord, which creates a completely bright and different sound than what we've been hearing for the rest of the song. This is like a turning point, right as he says it here. And it happens right as he says the rainbow connection. And then he just finishes it off with a 4-5-1 resolution. So if you're looking to try and add a little bit more of a bright sound and maybe some song that you're trying to write yourself, you can try using this same kind of idea of having the major 6 chord right there to really help brighten it up and add in some pop. So once he finishes the chorus, it goes back to that little banjo riff and pretty much everything repeats musically. The chords are all the same and so are the melody. But the lyrics do change a bit. And one interesting thing I want to point out about the lyrics here, is that you might notice if you listen to like a cover of the song, they feel kind of awkward to sing. But when you listen to Kermit sing it, it doesn't sound awkward at all. So what's going on there? So when the writers and composers of the song were writing the lyrics, they specifically kept in mind Kermit's specific cadence that he has. That way when he sang the song, it would match up with how he normally speaks. So then people, when they try to cover this song who don't talk like a Muppet frog, it sounds a little bit awkward. Fun little bit of trivia for you, but quite interesting nonetheless. So let's go ahead and look back into the music here though. We get through the whole second verse, the second sort of bridge thing, and the second chorus again as well. And then we get to this part where it changes up a little bit. And it continues on from there. So what happened there? Well, we got a key change. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about key changes. The biggest thing is usually add some difference between the first kind of part of the song and the second part. But the way he does it here is just goes up like that resolution that we saw from 4 to 5. But instead of resolving it here, he just goes up one more half step to the next major chord, an F major chord. And you can really hear that's almost a little bit dissonant, but now it's helping set us up for the new key that we're in, A sharp major. So everything just moves up by a half step. So when we hear this chord, it now resolves to an A sharp major chord. Like that. And we can get the rest of the song in this new key, kind of showing how we've changed from the start or the beginning. And that's about it for all of the musical or technical stuff for it. Hopefully now you can have a little bit of a better appreciation for why I think this song works so well, especially within the context of the movie. The way that the music, melody, and chords are all able to mirror the story that's being told in the scene, in the movie, and the stuff that's about to come is done so well. And then the lyrics on top of that just help reinforce everything together. And maybe now you'll be able to use some of this in some of your own projects that you're working on. That would be pretty cool. If you like this type of breakdown video, kind of going through the chords and the melody, the stuff that kind of makes these songs work, let me know. It could be cool to do some more of these. But if not, thanks for watching till the end, and I'll see you guys later, probably.